こんにちは。密着警察へようこそ。2019年10月12日、米テキサス州フォートワースで近隣住民が隣家の玄関ドアが深夜に開いたままと警察の非緊急回線に通報。警察官アーロン・ディーン警官を含む複数の警官がジェファーソンさん宅の状況確認のため現場へ向かった。到着した警察官たちは家の周囲を静かに調査。ディーン警官は住民に自らの存在や身分を告げないまま裏庭へ回り込み、懐中電灯を窓から室内に照らしながら覗き込んだ。当時ジェファーソンさん28歳は8歳の甥と一緒にビデオゲームをしていた。玄関ドアは料理中に発生した煙を換気するため開けていただけだった。ディーン警官は窓越しにジェファーソンさんの姿を認識するや否や、手を上げろと叫び、直後に窓越しに拳銃を一発発砲した。ジェファーソンさんは即座に胸を撃たれ、救急処置も及ばず死亡した。彼女は武器を所持していたが、それは自宅内で正当に保持していたもので、ディーン警官はそれを事前に認識できていなかった。
We're following tragic news out of Fort Worth, Texas. An African-American woman was shot and killed by a white police officer while she was inside her own home. This incident marks the 9th police-involved shooting in Fort Worth just this year alone.
Police in Fort Worth released police body camera video almost not long after the shooting actually happened. The department said that is hoping to provide both transparent and relevant information as this investigation runs its course. But you hear from those that are essentially advocating here for the family of the woman who died. They're saying that is not enough. They want accountability and eventually even an indictment of the police officer.
We went from a welfare check to a woman being killed by the cops.
Outrage is building over the actions of a Fort Worth, Texas police officer. Saturday morning, just before 2:30 a.m., police were called to the home of 28-year-old Atatiana Jefferson after neighbors noticed her front door was open. Heavily edited body camera video released by Fort Worth police picks up what happens next. After police peer through the front door, they walk the perimeter of the property when suddenly, police say, an officer spots someone standing near a window.
Put your hands up! Show me your hands!
The medical examiner identified the woman who the officer shot as Jefferson. She died at the scene. James Smith says he's the concerned caller who first alerted police.
I feel guilty because had I not called the Fort Worth Police Department, my neighbor would still be alive today.
In a statement, Fort Worth police said their officer drew his weapon and fired the single shot after, quote, perceiving a threat. In addition to the body camera footage, investigators released this still photo showing a firearm inside the house. Legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson cautions not to jump to any conclusions.
You're going to release the fact that she has a gun in the home as perhaps what? To suggest she had a gun and that we were perhaps fearful for our life? There's no indication where that gun was. There's no indication she had that gun. There's no indication that she should not have had the gun.
Requested the unedited body camera footage. A police spokesperson said nothing additional will be released at this time and that the department, quote, shares the deep concerns of the public and is committed to completing an extremely thorough investigation. Police have not named the officer who joined the department in April of last year. In addition to requesting the unedited body camera video, we have also put in a request for the incident report and dispatch recordings where we could potentially hear the initial call for service that prompted this to begin with late Friday, early Saturday morning. We should note that the police officer involved here, Fred, he has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. We also reached out to the Fort Worth Police Officers Union for comment, and they have not immediately responded at this point.
So troubling. Was she at home by herself?
At this point, we do have various reports that there was possibly a child inside. We also have early indication that she possibly lived with mom, but was seeking some medical treatment at a hospital at the time. So at this point, we do, according to what we're hearing, and again, the story's still in its preliminary stages, there was potentially somebody else inside, but authorities have not really elaborated at this point.
Aaron Dean Dean is the only Tarrant County officer to go on trial for murder while on duty. He shot and killed Tatiana Jefferson on October 12, 2019, in her own home.
Put your hands up. Show me your hands.
I'm devastated.
He and his partner were responding to a non-emergency call to Jefferson's home.
And they go,
James Smith, her neighbor,
open the gate,
had called a non-emergency number. He asked that someone check on the home because the door was open in the early morning hours. Around 2:30, Dean and his partner arrived. Tatiana was killed minutes later.
People say, well, James, it's not your fault. You're not your fault. But I made a call. I made the call because I thought that they were going to do what I called them to do, check on my neighbor. And they didn't do that.
The officer did not announce that he was a police officer prior to shooting. What the officer observed and why he did not announce police will be addressed as the investigation continues.
At the time of the shooting, Dean had been a Fort Worth officer for only 18 months, but had been a Tarrant County resident much longer. He grew up in Arlington, one of 6 children. He and several of his siblings attended UT Arlington. His parents still call the city home. But not much is known about Dean's family life. He's not married, and none of his family members have spoken publicly since the shooting.
Put your hands up.
Fort Worth police released Dean's personnel file after the shooting, shedding some light on his life prior to 2019. It shows that 2 supervisors during his training were concerned about Dean getting tunnel vision and not observing everything around him. One of them wrote, "He will be so engrossed with what he's doing, he gets tunnel vision and will not hear what's being instructed." The department also released video of his job interview where he was asked this.
Will you be able to kill somebody if you have to?
No problem.
Dean had applied to be an officer in Fort Worth once before in 2015, but withdrew.
I did not feel that I was up to the standards.
Aaron Dean.
He was working as an engineer when he decided to apply again a couple of years later. On that application and in his interview, he said that while he was a student at UT Arlington in 2004, he was given a citation by Arlington police after he touched a female student's breast while in the library and then asked she not report it to police.
I was in a very conservative church at the time, worried about tarring and feathering and all that.
Fort Worth police said in a statement they weighed the assault charge when deciding to hire him. It was given significant scrutiny during the hiring process. He also had 2 run-ins with police in 2005 involving an airsoft pistol he carried on his hip that made one restaurant customer nervous, Dean wrote. An officer responded and gave me a stern warning for my recklessness and disturbance of everyone's day. Fort Worth police moved forward with hiring Dean in April 2018. By October 2019, he was charged with murder for killing Tatiana as she played video games with her nephew.
Black Lives Matter!
Her death sparked outrage and protests across the city.
I'm here to let you know your city is hurting.
It prompted apologies from Fort Worth police and the former chief.
I realize that no action we take can replace the loss suffered here. I'm deeply sorry for what occurred.
Dean shot within 2 seconds after seeing Tatiana come to the window to see who was outside. At the time, he said he felt an imminent threat. In his job interview, he was asked if there was a time to fight.
If there's an imminent threat that I think it is necessary to defend myself, then that is absolutely the time to do so.
More on that breaking news we told you about. Aaron Dean, that former Texas police officer who fatally shot Tatiana Jefferson, has been sentenced to nearly 12 years in prison. Just got in these pictures and just got word on the verdict as it was reached. Bernarda Villalona joining us now, former homicide prosecutor, still attorney at law. So are you surprised? I know this is all kind of happening really fast, but are you surprised that he got, it looks like 11 years, almost 12 years, 11 years, 10 months to be exact, and 12 days for the shooting death of Tatiana Jefferson?
Hi, Kara. I'm not surprised that Aaron Dean was sentenced to almost 11 years incarceration. Remember, the purpose of sentencing and what was reiterated to the jury is for deterrent, punishment, and rehabilitation. The defense did a good job in the sense of asking and pleading the jury to say that there's no need to rehabilitate him because he was on the job, no longer on the job, so this is not going to happen again. So there's no means for deterrence. However, the prosecutor was very clear. Look, probation was not a recommended sentence here by the prosecution because Tatiana Jefferson's life is worth more than 15 minutes of a probation interview per month. So that's why they went above the 10 years, because I think if they would have went under the 10 years, remember that the judge would have been able to just sentence him to probation. So in terms of, look, 11 years, that's not worth the life of Miss Jefferson, but at least they have some kind of closure. Remember, Amber Geiger was sentenced to 10 years and was tried in Texas.
And the jury heard from several witnesses after more than 13 hours of deliberation. Do you think that was a pretty quick decision by the jury?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think they had to take into account, you have to remember when it comes to police officers, that it's very hard for a jury to try to comprehend and wrap their mind around that a police officer went out there that morning to work with intent to kill someone. That's why I think that they came with a compromise verdict of finding him guilty of manslaughter as opposed to the intentional murder. So the jury was grappling and took their time in trying to, one, reach a verdict and came back with a guilty. But two, when it came to the sentencing, they didn't reach a verdict yesterday. They went out overnight and were sequestered, and they thought about what should be the appropriate sentence, but it's clear that it wasn't probation.
Former Texas police officer Aaron Dean, almost 12 years. He's been sentenced to prison for the shooting death of Tatiana Jefferson.
事件直後、ディーン警官は警察を辞職し殺人罪で逮捕された。2022年12月、裁判で陪審団は固殺罪で彼に有罪判決を下し、懲役約12年の実刑判決が言い渡された。その後、彼は判決に不服を申し立て最高裁に上告したが、2024年10月、最高裁はこれを棄却。判決は最終的に確定した。この事件は、警察官が身分を明確に名乗らずに武器を使用したことを問題視され、警察の対応方法や武力行使の妥当性をめぐって全米で議論を巻き起こした。感情的な警察官ほど恐ろしいものはないと思った方はいいねを。皆さんのご意見コメントでお待ちしております。これからも警察や様々な事件の動画をお届けしていくので、チャンネル登録してお待ちください。ご視聴ありがとうございました。